So what should we do about this health care bill? Dan Gainor is on the line with us. He's the Vice President and T. Boone Pickens Free Market Fellow at the Business and Media Institute, the free market think tank. They like to call themselves free market these days, not conservative. Do I have that right, Dan?
Actually, the whole time I've been here, we've called ourselves free market, so It's not a new thing.
Okay, businessandmedia.org is the website. Dan, when I was in Denmark, we did our show for a week from Copenhagen about a year ago. Well, it was June, a year ago June, and
life.
Well, actually, it was a wonderful trip, and Danish radio gave us a studio, and we did our show for all 5 days, 3 hours. From the studios of Danish radio, and we kind of rented a local producer, person who worked with Danish radio, and she booked for us. I said, I want every Danish conservative you can find. We got the publisher of the largest conservative newspaper in Denmark, the one that published the Mohammed cartoons that caused all the kerfuffle. We got the leader of the opposition in their parliament. We got the head of one of the largest conservative organizations in that country. We had wall to wall. We had other topics and other people as well. But for 5 days, every day, at least one major Danish self-identified right-winger on the program. And I asked every single one of them, would you do away with the national health care program that you have in Denmark, where it's paid for out of the general fund? In other words, it's just, it comes out of everybody's taxes, and all medical expenses are paid for. There's a small, like a $5, $10 copay when you go to see the doctor, but that's about it. And I asked every single one of them, would you like to see this done away with? And the responses ranged from, are you crazy? To, no, I don't, because this is what encourages entrepreneurialism. When you take away the fear of falling through the cracks, you encourage people to step out and take chances in business, and that's what we conservatives love and embrace. Not one single conservative in Denmark wanted to do away with their health insurance program, their national health insurance program. Why?
But Tom, this is one of the problems with national health care. Not one of the advantages. When you give people random benefits, no matter what. If you suddenly tomorrow government doled out $10,000 a year to everybody as a citizen. Now, of course, they'd tax it from us. But if people would get used to that $10,000, and they would not want to take it away. It's hard to take away
What's
a benefit.
What's so bad about that, Dan? Well, first of all, the $10,000 would be if we ran it through the current gangsters, because that's about the average in the United States. You realize that the average in Denmark is around $4,000 a year. And there's no rationing, and there's no lines, and nobody. I couldn't find a single person to complain about their system. In fact, we had
they're comparing really apples to oranges. A totally different size country, a totally different culture. Our litigious culture alone makes it different than pretty much any other civilized nation on earth as far as expenses.
Dan, less than 1% of total health care costs in the United States involve litigation.
But
it's irrelevant.
It's an important 1%.
It's irrelevant. It's less than 1%, and it's irrelevant. We're talking about we pay $10,000 per person in the United States. Canada pays $5,000 per person. Most of the countries of Europe pay $3,500 to $4,500 per person. The UK pays around $5,000 per person. I'm doing this from memory, but I'm pretty sure these numbers are.
Yeah, but of course you can talk
ballpark.
about wait time from a couple of those countries, and it's a lot worse too.
It depends on what you have, and I don't have a problem with that. Right now, if I call my doctor and try to make it. I came back from Africa with pneumonia, and I called my doctor and I said, I think I'm going to die from this. And my doctor said, we can see you in 2 weeks. You want to talk to me about wait time? I ended up the next day going to an emergency facility, and the doctor said, yeah, you are going to die because you've got mycoplasmic pneumonia that you brought back from Africa, and it is, I was spiking a fever of 104. And my doctor, that takes health insurance, was saying, well, we can see you in 2 weeks.
The problem we have right now in Washington is we're trying to do too much, too fast, involving too many aspects.
We're not doing enough. We need a
1,000-page bill.
Okay,
so
we agree that we should blow up the bill. You and I agree that this bill stinks.
Yes. So if we kill the bill, what are the foundational principles that we should try to strive for here? And I think there are 3, and you might even agree with me on them. The first one I'd say is you have to help the people who don't have health care.
Sure.
Second, you have to contain costs. If you
Yes.
don't contain costs, it runs out of control no matter what you do.
Yes.
And then third, it has to be bipartisan. There was Olympia Snow, who I ordinarily don't quote on air because I don't really agree with her very often, but I think she made a point not too long ago saying that if one party does this, it will be a horrible disaster.
Why does it have to be bipartisan? Bill Clinton passed his budget, his tax increase that led to balanced budgets and a surplus that George Bush was going to spend without one Republican vote.
You're talking about remaking 1/6 of the economy and affecting something that affects every single person.
All the more reason to say it doesn't matter about whether or not it's.
If you do it wrong, Tom, you're going to have literally people in the streets. You have people like me burning their public, healthcare card, refusing to go, and then we're going to be a nice big pain in the butt for the system later on because, of course, we won't go to doctors.
So you're saying, Dan, that if we simply said everyone in America is covered by Medicare, now you're free to continue to buy any kind of health insurance policy you want. You can buy, if you want to buy a policy, and you can do this in Denmark. In fact, I talked to the one of the head guys in Denmark of Americans Abroad, or Democrats Abroad rather, which is a group of Americans who live in Denmark. Most of them are married to Danish nationals. This guy had lived there for like 22 years. And he said he buys a supplemental policy for like $100 a month or something like that. So if he goes into the hospital, he gets a private room rather than a duplex or a quad. There's like certain, it's like a Cadillac policy, right? It's because the Danish
sound like for $100 a month. That's a pretty cheap Cadillac.
Well, and that's the point. It's not a lot of money because it's not a lot of risk for the health insurance companies. The health insurance companies are much smaller there than they are here because because most things are covered, but they still exist. And so you would still be able to buy a policy to jack yourself up to whatever rate you want. In fact, I think that there's enough wealth in this country, unlike Denmark, which has such high tax rates that there's very few millionaires and billionaires. It's viewed as a social evil, and people are embarrassed to be billionaires in Denmark. Here, it's the opposite. I think that there's enough very wealthy people in this country that a whole new industry would emerge. You'd have hospitals built just for rich people. You would have, health insurance companies just for rich people. And just like right now, you've got, private jets and private airports just for rich people, which doesn't exist in Denmark. So, I think you could have your cake and eat it too, Dan, if we simply went with Medicare for all.
I wildly disagree. You get government seizing 1/5 or 1/6 of the economy, it's somewhere in between, then bad things result. I mean, again, you look at the wait times and, from Britain or Canada, either one, the wait times are worse for a lot of things. If you're use the foreign standard, you really want to get great medical treatment, you don't see them going to Canada.
The wait times may be worse for hip replacement, but if you're walking around with pneumonia, you can see a doctor that fast. I have done it in those countries.
They travel to America for healthcare. They don't travel.
No, they don't. Come on. Dan, you go to your local hospital and just tomorrow and ask them how many Canadians have showed up in this hospital in the last year, and report back to me next week. And I'll bet you right now the next dinner we have together, the number will be less than 5.
People come from around.
In fact, I'll bet the number will be less than 1. Well, sure. I mean, you've got some countries in the world where healthcare absolutely stinks, but you're talking about you're trashing Canada, and I'm telling you, people are not coming here from Canada and England for healthcare.
People aren't coming here from England. Having seen, I saw the Irish healthcare system. I wouldn't ever go to an Irish hospital ever again if my life depended on it.
I know nothing about the Irish healthcare system, so I can't comment on that.
Listen again.
But my point is, Dan, who do you want between you and your doctor? Do you want it to be Bill McGuire and Stephen Hemsley, or do you want it to be
picking who that is, not being told it must be Uncle Sam? And so that's again, Tom, if you try to do this, ram it down the throats of the American people and force a partisan solution, one, you guys are going to get killed in 2010. But two, long term, it's bad for the health of the country, both politically and physically.
This is the Thom Hartmann Program.